Can I get a roll call? Excuse me.
President Ferguson,
Here?
Vice President Gerard,
Here.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
Councilmember Fagan,
Here.
Councilmember Cresser. Here. Mayor Gerard,
Here.
Junior Councilperson Weeder,
Here.
Borough Manager Snyder. Here. Borough Solicitor Harper.
Here.
All right. Can I get an approval for the meeting agenda for today? Or excuse me, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. I got a motion from Councilman Burns, second from Councilman Cresser. Any questions, changes, or amendments? If there are none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. All right, item 2, public input. If there's anyone from the public who would like to make a statement, please rise, state your name, and address the reason for attending council. Mr. Stevens, you don't want to get up and give us a talk? I tried. I'm trying to get him, you know. All right, if there are none, we'll go to item 3, announcements.
Next council meeting is February 21st. That's the regular meeting at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. The planning commission is scheduled to meet on Monday, February 26th at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. And HROC is scheduled to meet Wednesday, February 28th at 8 a.m. in council chambers.
All right, any questions for the manager? If not, we'll go to item 4, reports from our standing committees and the mayor. So Budget, Labor, and Finance Committee report. We have not met since the end of last year, so there's nothing to report. Planning, Building, and Zoning.
Yeah, so we had our first meeting of the year on Monday, February 5th. We discussed last year's activities and the items that were finished. They had a bunch of stuff that they did, which was really great.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed the rental inspection program and a timeline for this year. We're anticipating feedback from Bob Heil by the end of this month, the 29th, so that we can present that information to council in the March, April timeframe. So we're shooting to have something for the town hall. Then we met with Steve Barth and reviewed parking overlays from Percy and Lansdale boroughs. He's going to try to get a couple from, was it North Wales, I think?
Yeah, and I
In
believe,
Souderton.
yes, he was gonna look at Sourton, and I know he provided the Sellersville, like they
Yeah.
have like a map.
Oh, yeah, that's right, the Sellersville, yeah. And so he's gonna get those for us so we can go over those and review those. And that's it for this month.
All right, all right. Any questions for Councilman Burns? All right, if not, we'll go on to public safety.
Last night we went over some high traffic speeding areas, and we were brainstorming together to figure out ways that we can calm the traffic. So we're gonna be working on that going forward for Talmanson, Vine, and a couple other ones that are always in the mix.
What are the other ones?
Blaine Avenue.
Really?
Edgewood, right?
Yep, Edgewood, that's in it.
I could see Edgewood connecting too, right? Blaine, that's surprising, so, okay.
It's a one-way street,
Yeah,
but there are always complaints that there are speeding going on there,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
we're looking into all of them.
Okay,
We also went over Maple Avenue with the truck traffic. There was a few residents that said that there's a lot of trucks going through there, which they're going through for a Lansdale warehouse.
Mhm.
The accidents are low there, so, I mean, we'll continue to look into it, but there's not a whole lot that you can do with that.
Yeah. And is there something with the new condos coming in that area? Is that
Well,
something we want to think
There's a
about?
possibility of a three-way stop sign going in there.
Okay.
We're gonna have a traffic study done by the condos coming
The
in.
builder,
Yeah, they're gonna look into it and decide whether we need to put a stop sign in there once it's finished. So that's that part of it. Then there's also parking issues where people are parking too far into the driveways. So they can't come in and out because they're hanging over just enough that they cannot. So, we're gonna tell the residents that have issues with that to contact the police so that they can be talked to with their cars.
And is that prevalent in any specific area where we're seeing that, or is it?
It's right by the same places that, like, right down from where the builders are building.
Okay, so that same section,
Yeah,
of street. Okay,
the
okay.
Maple there. And then also went over snow emergency, and snow emergency routes, if we needed to add any streets to it or take any off. So, Steve and his guys are gonna go through the roads that are on there and see if we need to add any more to it.
Okay.
And that's about it. If there's any questions.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, utilities.
Public Works Property and Equipment has not met. We are scheduled to meet Tuesday, the 20th at 6:30. But me and Councilmember Burns were able to take a tour of Public Works this past Monday, so Steve graciously showed us the grounds. And yeah, we're looking forward to our first meeting on the 20th.
Did he show you the movie theater in the back with the stadium seating and?
Surround sound
Surround sound,
Absolutely.
IMAX.
and the old wastewater treatment.
All right, any questions for Councilman Fagan? Now we can go to utilities.
Utilities has not met recently, but I do have one item to report. We did receive a large payment from one of our back due customers in the borough. And the particular customer has also indicated that she is going to be making a concerted effort to make a partial payment from here on out to make sure that she's bringing her delinquency down to notice. So. And that's about it.
Okay. Any question for Councilman Gerard? All right, how about Hurrock?
Rockman, and we discussed about the Earth Day that's going to occur on April 20th. This year, Earth Day is going to take place in two different locations in the borough. One is going to be at Franconia Auto Repair. That's going to be basically for motor oil and also for old tires to be dropped off. And the other location is going to be down at the Public Works Department to handle everything else that is going to be done. There was a discussion that came up about simplifying it, and because of the proximity of the congestion in the area of Franconia, to just split it up, and that way to make things easier. Also, we're looking at doing, in conjunction with Barth Consultants, a possible business banner program in the borough where we would put up banners in certain areas for businesses, not for them to advertise, but just to indicate that there's a business there with a particular name on it, so we get their names out. And we are also looking at doing sometime in the mid to late spring, a community survey and having a town hall meeting to bring people up to date with what we're planning on doing with Barth Consultants.
Will that be a separate town hall or be incorporated in the one we already have?
No, it's going to be it'll be all together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just a question for the Earth Day drop off that's happening at Public Works. Are people gonna have to drive all the way down to the Public Works, or will they do it kind of in that front entrance area?
It depends on what they're bringing back. Some things might be able to be dropped off up front, but other items will have to go in further to drop them off.
Okay.
Steve will be setting up the sites there.
Okay.
Public Works area.
Okay.
And what type of items are we encouraging?
Well, anything except for appliances like no refrigerators, dehumidifiers, air conditioners, no electronics, basically cardboard, paper, what else you got down there?
That's scrap.
Scrap metal, I guess.
Tree branches, yard waste in the brown disposable bags, the biodegradable bags, used motor oil, tires, like we said, batteries,
Yeah, that's gonna be up at,
That'll be Franconia, right? Okay.
scrap metal, trying to think, we will have a shredding truck there on site for, mobile shredding.
Okay.
I think that's about it. Yeah.
And are we doing this just with the borough? Are we gonna advertise it through the township as well? And,
just for the borough.
okay.
But there, from what I understand, the township is not real happy because we got the shredding truck first.
Jamie, you're gonna pay the price for that one. aren't you? That's why she's the manager. Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
All right, sounds good. Any questions for Councilman Gerard? All right, if not, we'll go on to our mayor's report. Madam Mayor?
Yes, so I just wanted to report, I attended the Recycling Commission meeting back in January. We should be receiving our grant from 2022. And it's going to be a ballpark figure around 5,000. Not great, but I think that's what we budgeted to receive the 5,000. Now, we're looking at new ways to allocate the grants because right now it's being done by population. So you have some municipalities that are awesome recyclers, but because they have a low population, they're being penalized. So we're looking at the tonnage, according to tonnage. And we have a new grant consultant, Hughes Associates. And they seem like they're really, really know what's going on out there. And they recommended that we do it according to, they would get a base rate, which would be what you would receive if you were filing individually. So that would be your base rate. And then they have some proprietary software that allows them to form subgroups within the commission. So that enables them to maximize the size of the grant. So it looks like if everything goes the way they're talking about, we should be getting, larger grants in the future. Now, in order to change that allocation method, we would have to add amendments to the intermunicipal agreement. So that would have to be voted on by each of the municipalities before that could take place. And then our solicitor has finished his review of the ordinances for each municipality in the commission. And they have been reviewed by the DEP. So supposedly it should meet with all their criteria. And again, that would have to go out to all the municipalities to be voted upon. And lastly, the commission will be taking over the website. There's a subcommittee within the commission that will be responsible for content and education and everything. So gives us more opportunities. For instance, like when we have our Earth Day thing, we can post it on the commission's website as well as ours. So not that a lot of people can come to it if they're not borough residents, but just to show that everybody's doing something, everybody's participating in the recycling. That's about all I have.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. When they said vote, is that the community has to vote
Oh,
or?
no,
Oh,
it has to be brought to council. It
Oh, okay.
would be an amendment to an agreement,
Okay,
and then the ordinance, of course, would have to come to
Okay.
the
so
council.
we don't have to wait for an election to do that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And,
referendums.
and just curious out of that, do all the municipalities have to agree, or is it based on a percentage of the municipalities that agree? Like
I
if,
would think that it would be majority rules.
Okay.
But if you're gonna get more,
Yeah.
kind of,
yeah, no, I was just curious. I was curious how it's decided upon,
Right.
Well, or if there's one group municipality that says, I don't want to do this, does that hold up the whole group?
I would think it's majority rules.
Okay.
It's, it's to their benefit. Now, what our consultant will do, they will list all what each municipality would get under the different methods, so you can see exactly how you will be impacted.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's, 5,000 is not a stellar number, so I figure we can only go up, whatever the methodology.
True. The 5's been typically what we have been getting for years, right? So,
We did. In the past, maybe pre-COVID numbers, was it like 8,000?
Oh, yes,
Like pre,
the,
maybe a little after.
When I've only been on it 2
Yeah.
years, but I know that there was a check that Borough received or never received, whatever, that was never cashed. So it had to be reissued, and I think that was in the 7,000,
Yeah.
something like that.
okay.
So since I've been involved, it's unfortunately going lower, but I think that's an area we need to look at more closely, the recycling in the borough. I think it's so important that we, get people enthused about it and involved in it. North Wales, which is approximately the same population as ours, they are just amazing. I mean, they just recycle everything. Sneakers, clothing, they just are really involved in it. So, I'd like to get us more involved.
And are all the grants that we get, just like curiosity, are they all state grants, or is there any federal in there as well?
Well,
too?
no, it's just the 904, the state grant.
Right,
Act 101 is a state law
Right,
that says
right.
we have to.
Okay.
So it's not federal.
Are there any federal funds out there for?
I
us
don't
all,
know,
too?
but we can check into that. But I'm sure this new consultant, I'm sure if there were something,
Right,
I'm sure he would be on top of it.
right. You would hope, right?
Oh, no, I have a lot of faith in the sky.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Are there any questions?
Just to add something the mayor might want to bring up and recycling, ask about this. My understanding of state law is that part of it's performance-based, based on the tonnage of what you recycle. So if the commission were to go to an incentive-based system, if you recycle more, you get more, as opposed to just doing it by population, you might increase your overall grant, which would be good for everybody.
Right, right.
So that's true, that would be an argument for somebody to vote for the new system or the system that has that component, even if they didn't think they were gonna get any more money.
I think the study that our prior consultant did, it showed that under the tonnage, just about everybody went up a little higher. So I think the population thing is not going to fly anywhere.
Right,
So
it was meant to protect little places like Hatfield, because your population's so much smaller than like
Right.
Montgomery Township or something, So, but I do think that the performance space, I think that helps the whole group
Right.
as well as helping, anybody who's working it,
Mhm.
so.
And forming these subgroups, this is the way it was explained. If you have a high performing municipality and then a lower performing, that they can put them together and increase the number, the amount. So I'm not quite sure how that works. And like I said, it's proprietary, so maybe they don't want to share that, but that's another way to get the money. So.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll go to item 5, our reports and correspondence. Start with the monthly investment.
Monthly investment report was included in your packets, which also included the cash balances. Just wanted to highlight on the monthly investment report for 2023 that the only account that lost money for us in 2023 was the sewer cap. And in 2022, all of our 4 investment funds lost a significant amount of money. But with the adjustments that Budget Finance and Labor made with the T-bills and coming to council and getting that approved in 2023, that was the only fund that lost money. And in 2022, that fund alone lost over $74,000. So you can see those adjustments are paying massive amounts of good stewardship with the taxpayer dollars, with our investments, of just making those minor changes. And hopefully Budget Finance and Labor will meet in March. February is really busy with travel month for work. So, hopefully we'll meet March and make some adjustments again, specifically to that sewer cap. And then hopefully we can bring that up with the rest, and electric is doing fairly well. So, just wanted to highlight those things. I thought it was good to see with those adjustments that you made, how, it's paying off for the taxpayer dollars.
Thank you for that update. Any questions? All right, how about monthly EIT and LST?
Monthly EIT and LST was in your packets. Kind of trending along. We only had 1 month. You'll see that February is a big month in EIT and LST. So hopefully we'll get back, I think we're only $2,000 short in EIT in January than we were in 2023. And, kind of significantly lower in LST. We were at 8 in 2023. And we were only I guess we were at 4 in 2023. So we only had about $1,800 come in so far. But again, February trends high for us. So hopefully when we see these reports in March, those two numbers will be up.
Any questions? About the monthly year to date?
The monthly year to date was in your packets. As you can see through December 2023, revenues, got more revenues than we did expenses. It's always what we like to highlight. Also highlighting that we only used 75% of our budgeted $9.6 million in 2023. Same with revenues as 70, our expenses was 76, but we only budgeted 9.4. So that's why those numbers are a little bit different. Again, I think I highlighted last meeting, the utility replacement project was in the budget for last year, which was well over $1 million, 1.6 million, I think. So that's a significant amount of the budget that we didn't use, that we, are moving forward for 2024.
All right, any questions? All right, how about the monthly zoning and hearing board application?
No new monthly zoning hearing board applications. We're still in the appeal phase for the 103 North Main Street property.
Is there any sort of an updated timetable as to when this may come about?
What?
On 103
Right.
North Main?
Well, it takes about a year to get through the Court of Common Pleas generally, meaning, you file, everybody files and enters an appearance. You file why you think you should get your appeal. Then a briefing schedule is set out, or if nobody does the briefing schedule, it sort of lays there for a while till the court says, wait a minute, I'll make you brief these. So an applicant who's anxious to move it along can actually file a brief, and that causes the other side to file one, later. I think we've done briefs in that case. And our brief was written by the solicitor for the zoning board. So now it's sort of sitting there waiting for the court to decide, do they want to have oral argument or do they just want to decide it? So it'll be several months before we actually get a decision. It's moving, but yeah,
Glacially.
right, not moving very quickly.
All right, any other questions? Now we'll go on to the Barth Consulting and Steve's report.
There is no official report in the packets, but I will highlight that just last week alone, he met with 3 clients at the train station. So 3 more people that are interested in renting the property. He's working on a proposal process. So council, everybody can come and submit their business plan, submit their finances. So you guys everyone has a fair and equal opportunity to present what could be the use of the future station. He is also looking into 2 different grant fundings. We have some RCAP money. He's looking into a DCED grant. Possibly that could be used to renovate the station. So those are some things he's working on. I'll also add that him and I met with the Montgomery County Planning Commission. So previously, for the past, might be 2 years, we had budgeted $12,000 to work with the Montgomery County Planning Commission on a comprehensive plan for the borough. There was a really long wait list for us. There weren't enough planners, weren't really, moving the process forward. He kind of pushed them a little bit. We met with them and they said they think they can work something out for us if we are interested. And I would really not want to pass up on that opportunity. So I said, unfortunately, those aren't budgeted funds again, in 2024, but if we could kind of do something small this year in partnership with Steve Barth and then do a full-blown contract for the next several years. I think it's a 3-year contract at, an estimated $12,000 a year to create a comprehensive plan for the borough of what you would use for the next 20 years. He's done a lot of those in communities that surround us, like North Wales and Souderton. So Steve and I are going to meet with the Montgomery County Planning Commission sometime in the spring, walk the downtown, see kind of what our ideas are, get something for the second half of 2024. So it won't be a full-blown contract. They'll send some proposals and agreements that council will look at, and we'll see what money that we have. We always have some funds for different line items that aren't just designated. So I'm sure we can come up with half of $12,000 to be able to, retain them for the half of this year to get that comp plan going. Cause I know that's what we've all wanted to do. You do the codification, you do a comp plan of what the borough wants to be in 20 years. And then, we move forward from there. So it's really exciting. A lot of stuff has happened, I feel, since he started in November. So we just kind of keep plugging away and moving forward. And as Rich mentioned, Borough, I'm really, God bless you. God bless you. I'm really excited for the community to be involved in sending these community surveys out. I think that's going to be huge for the community to actually get a say in what do they want to see here in the next 10 years? Like, what businesses, what development, how do they want their tax dollars spent? Like, it's good to be transparent and have them have a say as well.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I think he's doing a great job.
So 2 questions. With the surveys, can we get the single trash hauler surveyed again? I don't know if that was part of it, so.
Yes,
okay.
yeah. Actually, Katie and I just talked about this when we were talking about questions. He was like, oh, some of them are, the tax questions. How do you want to see your taxes? A lump sum spread out over 3 years, those things, development. And we were said, oh, single trash hauler should be on there. So yes, that will be on, that can be added.
Okay. And are we talking about with the planning commission really starting in the second half because we're worried about the funding portion, or is it just we still have to develop what that would look like and what that process would look like, so we can't really start it now even if we wanted to?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. Like there's different parts of a comp plan. Do you want like a full-blown comp plan? Do you want them to more focus on just revitalization of the downtown? Like, what kind of do you want? So we were just kind of trying to map it all out and then create funding for that with like an agreement. So it was, I think it was a little bit of both. Most of it was like kind of seeing where we want to go with it. And that takes a little bit of time. And he did say he had a senior planner available, which is really good for us. So, and he said he'd be available, early spring to be able to take Hatfield Borough on.
Okay.
So we'll meet with them in the spring, and then, maybe I think they are committed to coming to planning commission meetings, working with your planning commission. They commit to come to, council meetings, working with different committees. So like, as part of that process, like they will be here and be present in the borough.
Okay. And that won't overlap with anything that Steve's working on, right?
No.
So it kind of works in conjunction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, I had mentioned, because when he came in, he was like, do you have the Montgomery County Planning Commission on like retainers? What he said, I was like, no, we've been trying, we're on a waiting list. And that's how the process kind of started. And he was like, oh, if I could work with them, it would just go hand in hand.
Okay. Okay. It was a good update. Any questions? All right, we'll go to the police department report.
There's nothing to add to the report, but it's a long report because the year-end summary is towards the end, so that's why it's a lengthier report than usual.
Anything unusual you'd want to highlight from the year end?
Actually, the part 1 crimes your guys are really good standing. That always stands out to me. It's always so low for the borough. So that's something that I'll have an answer to why. It takes great controlling by the office.
I think that's definitely part of it. So yeah.
But that it's a great thing to be able to post.
Okay. Yeah, can we put something on our social media with that? Maybe compared to the other communities in the area, just to highlight what a great job, what a great community we have. So
It's a big thing.
yeah, it's a huge thing. Yeah. I mean, especially when you read in the news, we're talking about crime up in Borders and all sorts of stuff, so. Any questions? All right, how about the fire department report?
Well, you're changing our work things, getting something going, so we have a report every month. In there, the person who does our reports in-house is backing off of a lot of the things he does. So he does just way too much. We need to get the younger folks involved so that they, I mean, he's getting much older, so they get a lot of younger folks involved in some of this stuff so that way we continue on. As far as the year goes, I'm starting off pretty slow as far as hunters, but aggressive as far as fires. We've had a lot of fires already. Both Hatfield and our surrounding communities, so. Should be an interesting year, I guess.
Well, I just went through and replaced all my fire smoke detectors in the house, so that was fun. So
Yeah, it's always enjoyable.
yeah, even got one that you can program it to tell you where it's going off at, so which part of the house. So, yeah, it freaked my wife out because it was talking to her. So she's like, "What was that?" So, yeah. All right.
They can also have the batteries dying, so you can still say battery dead in this room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Having to stand in the house and go.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, it was the higher end one because I bought 3 and one of them was the carbon monoxide detector. And this, even though I don't need it because the house is all gas, and apparently it's the one of the 3 that speaks to you. So it's like, okay, so it's, but all right. If there are no questions, we'll go on to EMS.
EMS report was in your packets, highlighting 22 zone calls out of 1,195. And for 2023, Hatfield Borough accounted for 1% of all calls for BMSC.
But it's in the updated packet. It's that.
Oh, yes, yeah.
If you didn't see it, it was in the updated packet.
All right, any questions? If not, we'll go on to Public Works the report. Oh, excuse me.
Pretty standard report for January, couple minor snowstorms, lots of cleaning trucks and washing trucks and removing salt off of trucks. Nothing too out of the ordinary for us, though.
Again, I thought you guys did a great job on the snows.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Sure.
You can answer it, I don't know. I know you've been replacing the streetlights with the LED units.
Correct.
Do you know how many more that you have to go to fully have LED lighting in the streets of the borough? I mean, just a general ballpark.
Give me 1 second, Rich. I, of course, don't, yep. We're about 50% completed with the replacement of just the Cobra heads. The Victorian lights around the Heather Meadows community and East Lincoln, East Broad, like that, what we call the core commercial area, even though I know it's much larger than that. Those are all 100% completed from the conversion to LED, but the actual Cobra headlights themselves are about 50% at this point.
And do you have like a target date as to when it's going to be completed?
That depends on Borough Council, budget, finance, and labor, and how we want to budget. If we continue to budget the way we have been for replacements, we're looking at about 3 years. I'd like to see if we could possibly speed that up by about a year, by just slowly increasing the amount that we buy over the next 2 years, not counting 2024. And maybe we can get that done in 2 years instead of 3.
And I'm assuming you're stockpiling, like, as these things are being replaced, you're stockpiling replacement pieces and parts.
Absolutely.
Also at the
Yep.
same time.
What are you seeing? Do you have a feel for what the price changes year to year to year? So by waiting 3 years, how much more we'll pay?
I haven't done that calculation. yet. I can go back and see what the trend has been
Right.
over, we've been replacing these over I think about the past 5 years. I can see where it has been. I have all the quotes, because every year before we go to budget season, I get an updated quote on where it is then and where we think it's gonna be, like the beginning of the year. So I can go back and see, is it a 5% increase year to year, 10%, what that is? And I can see what that is, if that's what you want me to do.
Yeah, it might be a good idea. Sure. Yeah, yeah. See what the incentive is to bring it, bring it to a close.
Sure.
With those old lights, what do? Just trash them, recycle them?
No, they're all broken down into all the different metals that are in them. There's
Okay.
copper, there's aluminum, there's regular steel, and it's all separated and it's all recycled.
Okay, good.
Did
Yeah.
we do that or is it someone else?
No, we do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good like rain day project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rainy day when there's nothing to do really outside, you can stay in the shop and just disassemble the lights.
Do we track that, Tom? What you?
It's all through like our slips that we get through Emirates Recycling.
Okay.
So I had worked with Jamie and she had sent me the email about the recycling.
Okay.
And I had included the metal through Emirates Recycling from
Okay.
2023 on
Okay.
what we had sent there and the different types of metal that was sent there and how many
Okay,
pounds.
good, good.
Yep.
Any questions for Steve? All right, engineering?
Engineering report was in your package, just highlighting that, Didden Greenhouse's land development, revised documents were received in the office at the end of January, and they're currently under review. They will also be at the Planning Commission on the 26th for a presentation, along with the 23 North Main Street property, Arbor Grove. And just that, engineer, Steve, Katie, myself had our 2024 kickoff meeting on January 23rd, went over our projects, went over our goals for 2024. So, obviously our main goal is to get the utility replacement project out to bid, HOP out to bid and started in 2024.
And remind me where we at with the crosswalks?
So the crosswalks, they will be we will start those after the utility replacement project, so we don't basically dig up what we just put in. But, I did see, how it was before, PennDOT didn't like mid-block crosswalks, so we were moving it to Town Benson Avenue, and then there was like some feedback about that of like, that gets closer to where the 35 mile an hour drops down to 25 in the bend. Well, now PennDOT put out a statement or like a news article that said like they're okay with mid-block crosswalks. So I sent that back to Anton and said, hey, does this change our plan for that intersection? And I haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay.
I just said, hey, does this change our plan? Like, because we were mid-block, then we weren't, and we were going for Town Benson, and then we could possibly be back. I know that some people would prefer, maybe for public safety as well, if we kept the mid-block more
Right.
closer to Vinnie's, just because of the drop down and give more sight. But we'll see if, what Anton says, so.
Okay. So yeah, so we're slated for 25 then.
Yes,
Right, That's
yep,
what I
yes.
didn't remember if it was,
Yeah, as
yeah.
long as the project keeps going and we have the money for that, it's still in the fund at Harleysville, sitting there waiting for, it was from the money that we borrowed, so
Right.
it's part of our like repayment process.
Okay.
It's already funded.
And no funding issues if we wait till 25.
No, we already filed a grant extension for it.
Okay.
Couple things we might want to consider on Diddens.
Mhm.
If the only thing in the borough is the stormwater management basin and something like that, I think the township has previously offered to let them hold the escrow money and they'll do all the inspections. Does that work for us? I think we need to think about it, whether their engineer should be the one responsible for inspections. And normally, we did that actually on the townhouses over across the street.
Giant, the new ones?
Right, the ones behind the historical,
Right.
Lydia's.
yeah.
Yeah.
We let the township do that, except there was one row of townhouses that I think we kept the money for and inspected, okay? This is different, and the reason this is different is if there's only stormwater management in the borough, we do want to make sure it's done correctly. So maybe we want to have a separate escrow and have our engineers doing the inspections, or maybe not. I think it's a question we should ask our engineer. And then we'll talk to the township and make sure that we're on the same line, because when we go to write the resolution, giving them approval, and I'm assuming that they'll eventually be ready for approval. We always put that in, you know, you have to escrow the money for the public improvements and all like that. So I think that's something we have to work out in advance, so that we know what we want to do. So maybe you could get Chad's opinion and then talk to, Aaron over at the
What would be
township.
the advantage of letting the township handle everything?
The advantage would be they don't have two separate escrow accounts, two separate letters of credit, two developers agreement, two, you know, and all that stuff. And assuming that the township's interests are the same as ours,
Right.
that the plans are built in accordance with whatever we both approve, and that the stormwater management system works. I'm not sure which property is downhill, them or us, but it's pretty flat, isn't it? Right.
More or less.
You know, the advantage would be you have one inspector and he's on site to look at the stormwater basin and also the paving. Or he's looking at, I don't know, you know, some curb issue and also what they're doing to the stormwater. And that's the advantage. It's a little more efficient.
Right.
Right. I mean, the disadvantage would be is if they do something that we don't want or like, then we have to go back and forth to get that
Right,
worked out, the details worked out. That would be the disadvantage.
that would be
Right.
the
And that's-
disadvantage.
Right, if there's something that we disagree on. That's why Kate really
Right.
specifically said, as long as we're in agreement with what the goal is and the objectives, then. you know.
Right, and I think
So-
that's a question for the engineers to answer,
Mm.
you know, you know, I don't think that they would be any less careful with stormwater because it was on the borough side of the line, you know what I mean? I think everybody cares about that,
Yeah.
so. I just think it's something you wanna think about as we go forward, and maybe Jamie wants to do a little research and see whether that's something that we should let the township do, because most of it's in the township.
I mean, but to your point, I think Chad really having some input on that would be extremely helpful. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, because if he sees things differently than the other, then that might
Another set of
be,
eyes.
yeah, so, okay.
Right, so I just want to bring that up since Diddens came up, and of course, we want to make sure that the electric is coming through the borough system. So we gotta, I don't know if that's on the plans or not, but
We don't get the electric because the building is outside the borough limits. So the only thing in the borough limits is the stormwater, the physical, greenhouse is on township property, so we can't take the electric.
I thought we already had a connection to them and they were one of our better customers.
Yeah, that's on the opposite side of Vine Street.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so we can't like run, okay.
We have basically for the plans is stormwater and the entrance. So we will be, Anton will be writing a letter for the borough for review because we have to make sure that, the entrance is addressed, you know, as well as the Libertyville Trail is part of it too, but that was included in their zoning.
Okay. Well,
Wouldn't it be?
I just hope that the other power company's power is as good as yours. Yes. So-
Thanks, Kate.
Is that something we can negotiate? All right. Any questions? If not, let's go on to zoning office, building code, property maintenance.
A code and zoning report was in your packets. Just want to highlight, notice of violations, up significantly from last month. Most of those are for the snow. I think he said 53 or 57, I can't remember the exact, were issued violations for non-shoveling of their sidewalks, during the past two, snowstorms that we had.
And what was involved with the illegal use of the church as a residence?
Oh, so the church on East Lincoln Avenue, that was the Coptic church, you know, that they rented just until they were building the facility. Somebody was using that as like a single family home in the core commercial district.
Still?
And that was a while ago, and I
Okay.
believe he was like following up to make sure because there was indications that people may be back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
I do have one other question. The property there, it says North Market Street. Is that the building across the street from the fire department? The unsafe structure, barn and garage?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that owner has come in and picked up a permit for demolition of part of that structure. And I did tell Bob that before he would issue a permit for demolition, if he could please check with the Hatfield Museum Historical Society as well as council, as I believe that structure was built before 1940. In case anybody wants to take any photos or anything like that, I don't know, but I said, please just don't issue that without, dotting your i's and crossing your t's. The gentleman did make a comment that he only wanted to take down a portion of that existing garage, I think the overhang part, and Bob seemed to be okay with that, as long as the other part was, proven to be structurally sound.
Yeah, I always thought that was historic. That's why it's never had anything done to it.
I'm not
So,
familiar with that.
not so much. Well, we got our expert in the back. Did you want to come up and give some more brief on that, Larry? Okay. All right, any questions? If not, we'll go on the fire marshal.
Fire marshal's report was in your packets, just highlighting that, the initiated fire inspections for 2023 were 100% initiated except for the multifamily dwellings, which are apartment complexes, but they have made a good headway and continue to do so for, the fire safety inspections.
It's kind of separate note, kind of related. How was the apartments out on Lincoln that flooded, that had the sewage issue? Meadowbrook, excuse me. Yeah,
They, are still going through the rehab process. So
Okay.
they're still working through that process.
okay,
Code has been out there. When they're not here, they do continue to do inspections throughout the week to not hold up that process. So they've been out multiple times.
Okay.
But, it's just as fast as they can go, code will inspect, but it is a process.
do we have our residents back in there now, some residents? or-
Some, I believe, have occupied some of the units, but, I think a majority of them are still just.
Okay. Any questions? All right, pool advisory report?
The pool advisory report was in your packets. Just updates, after season updates, talking about staff and the facility. And then, they had said they were gonna meet in January, but I believe that meeting was canceled for snow, so that's why those meeting minutes are not in the report.
Cancel the pool meeting because it's not.
Just not yet. No polar plunge with those
That's right,
guys, so.
that's right.
All right, any questions? If not, we'll go on to item 6, the manager's report.
Manager's report was included in your packets, a few updates, Bennett Sport Land Development update. They are working now on the individual lots back there, so they're moving along in that process. 43 Roosevelt Land Development, they submitted items for, engineering review, so that was approved 2022, maybe a long time ago. They're coming back and submitted some things that Chad asked them to clean up on the plans before they were already approved, but before they could go to recording. So, he just got an email last week asking him to review. Their escrow is current and up to date, so, he's reviewing those items. 28 North Market Street, that subdivision, the plans have been recorded and returned back to the borough office. So that is taken care of. 23 North Main Street, as I mentioned, is scheduled for the planning commission on February 26th. George Ditton Greenhouses, as I mentioned, is scheduled for the planning commission on February 26th. And moving all the way down on the next page for items of interest, just a reminder that the Montgomery County Boroughs Association dinner will be held this month. If you're interested in attending, please let me know, as they need a final count by Friday. The Hatfield Police Building groundbreaking, I had sent the invitation out to all of you via email, so hopefully you'll be able to attend. And the North Penn Water Authority newsletter was included in your packets. I thought they did a nice little article about our partnership with them for the utility replacement project. It was really nice for them to highlight. We're looking to do something similar in our upcoming newsletter, highlighting the grants that we got and our partnership with them. Were there any questions on my report?
Sounds like not. All right. Item 7, new business and discussion items. Item A, resolution 2024-01, the retroactive reimbursement agreement for the East Lincoln Avenue Bridge grant project.
This is a resolution that designates the borough manager, myself, to sign the PennDOT Lincoln Avenue Bridge project reimbursement grant application. That agreement is between Hatfield Borough and PennDOT. It is so we can finally get our $1.2 million back from PennDOT for the East Lincoln Avenue Bridge that we completed in the end of 2021. So this has been a long, long process. There was a little bit of calculation error on the engineer's part of like 40 some cents that started the whole process over. So we're finally here and we would really like our $1 million from the state. So this just authorizes me to sign that agreement, and hopefully we'll see that back. As you know, we'll put that money right towards our debt, and hopefully we will significantly decrease our debt with that and the CDBG money that we had received back. And, some of the MTF grant money we'll receive in 2025.
So I don't know if the rest of council picked up on it, but I think Jamie was saying, please pass the resolution so she doesn't have to deal with this anymore. Correct me if I was reading between the lines.
No,
correctly.
Diane too. Yeah, Diane wants this money.
One thing on the bridge, at one point we talked about potentially adding more guard railing and things like that, because there's some open spots. Did we ever want to look at that again from a safety standpoint? And
We did that.
Okay,
That was down along Poplar Street.
right.
We did
okay.
that already.
And that was it. There was
Yes.
nothing else out. Okay,
Yep.
all right. Okay. Any questions? If not, we'll go to item B, the resolution 2024-02, emergency operations plan.
So this resolution just authorizes our adoption of the emergency operations plan. You should have all received the emergency operations plan like via email. It is not a public document, so that's why it was not included in the public packet. It describes how if we go through an emergency, whether internal or external, what our controls are going to be and how we're going to implement to get through that emergency. It has already been approved by Montgomery County Emergency Department. It was approved in 2023. But we would have to rectify that and go through again in 2024 because we would have a change in council. So they just suggested if you could adopt it at the beginning of 2023 in your first quarter, or 2024, I'm sorry, then that would be fine. Right now, it's currently being reviewed by Fire Marshal, Emergency Management Coordinator, just to make sure there wasn't anything that we missed. If you're looking through it and you see anything or have any questions, please feel free to email Katie or I. We'd be happy to answer the questions. We're looking to adopt that at the next meeting.
I wouldn't think that there is anything, but based on the recent flooding that we had, would that change anything in our plans that we can think of?
Yeah, no, it does specifically address like who we would call and what we would do in instances of flooding. The one thing that it doesn't necessarily address, and we did ask the county, was like a pandemic. Like you would think that they would have made major changes to it because we went through a pandemic, but there's nothing significant. It actually addresses more flooding concerns than the pandemic that we went through that shut down the country.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it does talk about who would get the call, who Steve would contract with, who those services would be
Okay.
provided through,
Okay.
how we get reimbursement money, what forms we have to fill out, stuff like that's addressed for flooding.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was. I just know based on what we've seen recently, do we need to rethink that or add changes? So it sounds like no, it's still got all the base of what we need. So, okay.
In relation to the emergency plan, wouldn't something like a pandemic, wouldn't that be through the Pennsylvania Department of Health? They would be issuing something like that for controls?
Yes, but it was also when we went through the pandemic, every municipality chose to act the way that they wanted to act. So some municipalities actually never shut down during the pandemic. So we had asked the county, though that guidance comes from like the CDC, and then it comes from like the state level with the governor. Other municipalities that chose to do what they wanted to do during the pandemic, should it be more universal? Should something be addressed in there? So it's just kind of where we were going with it. And he said, hey, nobody really, you kind of do what you want to do and,
Yeah.
follow the guidelines in your CDC and you can make those decisions. Didn't really call out necessarily besides, if you would have to, emergency services or those types of things.
Yeah, and I guess when we think about it, everyone that's on council now, except for myself, wasn't on council. So it's, there were a lot of discussions. We had a lot of back and forth about what to do because to Jamie's point, there weren't really guidelines to say do this or don't do this. It was kind of do whatever you want to do. So, but we had a lot of meetings going through that on a weekly basis and several times a week initially to kind of set what we felt were appropriate guidelines. So,
Fun times.
yeah. And there was some pushback from residents, I remember. So like literally blasting us for doing it. But I mean, credit to Public Works, credit to the management team. I mean, we just really focused on public safety and said that's our number one focus. And so that really guided all the decisions that were made. So
You're not gonna make everybody happy, especially all the complaining about, why do I have to wear a mask?
yeah.
It's still going on.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? So when are we looking to act on this?
At the next meeting.
At the next-
So if
okay.
you have any questions, and you look through, it's three separate, it might be one PDF, but it's three separate, parts of it. Yes, like attachments. You can look through them and have any questions, or about suppliers or the chain of command or different things, like let us know. We certainly will address those. And if I don't have the answer, we can reach out to the county. We just like to get it done, sooner rather than later, so they can sign off on it and we can be in their good graces.
Would it be helpful to maybe set up, maybe it's at the next council meeting, because that's the only time you can get us all together without violating sunshine. Just a summary of the different points, and we'll kind of walk through the plan in general with all of us. Would that be worthwhile, or is that a waste of time?
No, I can highlight different things, but the plan specifically states that it's not for public like discussion, it's not for right to know. So that's why it wasn't discussed in a public meeting. So I can highlight different aspects of it without going into detail 100%. I can have an overview, if that would make it easier, like.
I'm just
for
wondering,
conversation.
and Kate, is there a way for us to meet on that without?
I was wondering whether the committee should look it over, which committee would it be?
Public safety.
Yeah, public safety would look it over. And the other thing I was wondering is, obviously this emergency plan's only gonna work if the police, fire, and the EMS are all on board and got the same plan and everything like that. So I'm assuming that they've already looked at it.
So the plan was adopted in 2018, and it's basically the exact same similar plan that's been in place for Hatfield Borough since 2018, with just updates of vendors. Flooding was one of the updates of different things, so that everybody's kind of signed off on it. It's just, adopting it. I can certainly send it to the fire chief, and I can certainly send it to the lieutenant just to like look over it, to make sure they don't have any comments as the fire marshal is
Right,
doing
because
that.
They might change also. In another municipality where I'm solicitor, we had set aside a certain, with agreement of them, a school property to be used for mass evacuations. Like we needed 50 beds for people. This school, we went to them and we asked them, would you agree to do this? And they did agree. And what happens over time, and there was no trouble and they haven't needed it. But what happens over time is the principal of the school changes. I didn't know they were all coming here. You have to update them. So I don't know whether we have anything like that, a
Yeah.
place like that we have to make sure that whoever gave us permission to list them, is still cool with it. Because they're gonna get a call,
Yeah.
a sudden
In an
call on
emergency,
an
yeah,
emergency basis. Hey, we need to put 50 beds in the cafeteria. Are you okay with that? That's all.
It used to be the Hatfield Volunteer Fire Company,
Yeah.
so, they're not listed anymore because we have a generator here. So the reason we went to the fire company during ice storms, snowstorms, and you guys let us use your community, I call it community room, but your meeting room. We used to always meet there was because we didn't have a generator at the 401 or when we were in the temporary, but now that we have a generator here, this is now technically like the emergency operations center. So that's listed.
So that's fine, and that's
Yeah.
not a problem. We don't have to check and make sure it's still good because we know it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just thinking, what could go wrong?
It's probably something we have no idea about.
Right.
That's probably, you can't picture what it's gonna be and something's gonna happen and you don't know.
Right.
And the other reason you can't do it in public is like some residents of the borough who need special help are listed.
Yes,
Yeah, so you don't want to embarrass anybody by putting that out. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so, but I mean, the committee could look at it. And that would not violate the sunshine law because it's less than a quorum.
Right, right. Okay. Is that worthwhile to do, Jamie? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, since everybody has it, everybody can look at it, including the committee, and I certainly will send it to Lieutenant, and I'll get it over to Steve, and I'll copy Butch on it, just so they have it, and if there's any like feedback for
Okay.
any issues.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
And if you want me to do a summary of what's listed in there, I certainly can.
Okay.
That doesn't go into specific details, to just, highlight a few things. I can do that for the next meeting, no problem.
Yeah, and it might be something we want to put again on social media. So if there was ever something, people could at least know, hey, if I have a problem, I reach out to this person or, this group, things like that. So, okay. Yeah, that'll be great. Questions? All right, the AMP training agreement.
This is just a discussion item right now. I wanted to make you aware that through PMEA, AMP is going to do some training. So we were working with the Northwest Lineman College. And then that kind of, dispersed. And we're currently going to take some training this year through AMP, which is offered to any municipality that's part of PMEA. So that's 35 of us in the state. And AMP just wants us to sign an agreement. Any municipality that's taking their taking their training is for like liability purposes. That's strictly what it is. PMEA solicitor is currently looking over that agreement, and when they give us that agreement, I will pass it to our solicitor. We just don't have it yet. My last executive board meeting at the beginning of, I guess it was the end of January, was, hey, the first training with AMP is in March. So councils are gonna have to see this in February, adopt it in February to be able to participate in the March training. Fortunately and unfortunately, Hatfield Borough doesn't go to all the PMEA trainings because we don't have linemen on staff. But I do know that AMP's gonna require it for when they come in and do specific training with Steve's group anyway. So we're kind of just waiting for that agreement. Hopefully we'll have it by the next meeting. And I hopefully will be able to give it to Kate for review. In case one of the trainings in March, Steve or any of the guys want to go to, they won't be able to attend if the council doesn't adopt the agreement. And it's really just, from what we understand, liability purposes.
And the training, is it more maintenance related or more emergency related, or is it all the above?
It's a mix. It's all of the above. It's a lot of lineman training, specifically geared towards linemen. AMP does offer safety training that they come to our facility. They do CPR, first aid, AED, anything from like chainsaw safety to, we're doing a training, and I guess this doesn't fall under this, but it's going to be like an underground utility locating training at the end of February. So that's what they offer to us. They offer, and I think they gear it down for my department because we are not linemen.
Right.
So they're not getting into all the major nitty gritty specifics that the linemen would actually be taking the trainings for.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? All right. If not, we'll go to item 8, old business. If there's any.
I don't have any old business to discuss.
All right. I'm assuming there aren't gonna be questions since we didn't discuss it, so. All right, we'll go to item 9, action items. So we'll start with the first and only one, the motion to consider resolution 2024-01, authorizing the borough manager, Jamie, to sign the retroactive reimbursement agreement with PennDOT for the East Lincoln Avenue Bridge Grant Project.
Second.
I got a motion from Councilman Kressler, a second from Councilman Burns. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. So Jamie doesn't have to take him out in the parking lot afterwards. So it's a good thing. So, all right. Do we need an executive session? Believe.
Yes, just a brief one.
Okay. And I know I have something I want to talk about too.
Yep.
So, okay. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. I got a motion from Councilman Kressler, second from Councilman Gerard. All in favor? Opposed? There are none. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.